So guys, I wanted to share a little story with you, and I wanted to get your feedback, and you guys can tell me if you have been the tenants from hell before, or if you have been on the other end and being a landlord and had the tenants from hell. So I was watching a video on TikTok the other day with a young miss and her family. They had their first home, and apparently they bought a second home and then moved out and used this first home as an investment opportunity. So they rented the place to two young ladies, and within the space of 1 week, they got calls from their neighbors that there is something wrong over the house. Guys, when they went back, the destruction on their property is ridiculous. Now their house has become uninhabitable, as well as their neighbors' homes have also been destroyed. And apparently the insurance may not cover it. So I'm going to show you the videos of the damages to the house. The two young ladies, they broke the toilet upstairs. They left the faucet running. So there was so much water damage. It waterlogged the upstairs of the house. When they went in, the floors are basically sagging. The walls are sagging. And I'm thinking, how can people be this cruel to other person's property? And the young miss, she came on and she was hunting down the tenants who she rented the property from, because I guess they're going to be suing them. I think she said that all of the information is with the lawyers. But take a look, guys, and let me know, what would you do in a situation like this? And honestly, I have heard other similar stories, right? So I had a friend who rented out their investment property, and when the couple moved out, and I'm going to be showing you some videos that he sent me of, what was left behind by the tenant, right? So he bought, within the last 2 years, he had bought new fridge, new stove, new washer, dryer for the house. And when the people moved out, guys, if you look, you will see the stove, the oven that doesn't seem to have been cleaned since the day it went in. The stove top is dirty. They didn't even bother to, maintain the stove top cleanliness. And of course, there are products on the market that you can use to clean. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, with the oven is actually a self-cleaning oven. So even if you know that you're going to be moving out, even if it take you 5 days, so the oven, it's in real bad shape. So if Monday you want to use the self-cleaning option and get rid of the heavy dirt and stuff, then Tuesday you do it again. It's not as if you have to do all, the elbow work yourself. But take a look at the oven, guys, and you will see what I'm talking about. Then they have the washer and dryer, and it's a front load washer dryer. And this is one of the reasons to why I don't like front load washer and dryers, because that you're supposed to, after you use the front load washer, mainly the washer though, you're supposed to actually leave the door ajar so that it can get to air dry, right? And that will prevent mold, but when you look at this washer that was left behind, look at all the muck, look at all the dirt. They didn't even bother to clean it out. And I don't know if people don't know that you're supposed to actually clean these things. Now, when you look at the dirt, how is it that you think that your clothes are going to come out clean and fresh. And mark you, they also had a young baby. How are you going to be washing your baby's clothes in this? Guys, this is the washer from a house. It's not the washer from an apartment building where, you have multiple users. This is one couple, an adult couple, two adults plus an infant. Right? And now you tell me if you think this is right. And there's just one more scenario. I remember that there is someone who had rented a place, and then when they moved out from, this is in light of these things that I'm seeing. This scenario isn't bad, but I remember one person, when they moved out from their rental place, they did leave it clean, yes, but everything that they had bought for the house, they left with them. Even all the bulbs in the house, they removed every single one of the bulbs in the house, so that when the landlord went back to do their check, if they went back in the night, they couldn't even see anything, because all the bulbs in the house the tenant had left with them. Now, you tell me, what do you think? Have you been the tenant from hell, or have you had the tenant from hell?
So, welcome to Season 1, Episode 1 of Nightmare Tenants, featuring Caitlin Poor of H3LL and her partner, Kathleen Kennedy of DHL Logistics. So, my husband and I, we have a rental property, and it's the home that we brought our kids home in from the hospital, and it's the house that we had planned to actually give to one of our children in the future. Our old tenant of 2 years was moving out, and we actually had a great experience with him. Anytime he had a concern, it was always handled and addressed promptly and professionally by my husband. And ultimately, we still have a good relationship now. So this is where we enter Miss Caitlin and Kathleen. They moved in on Super Bowl Sunday, and were only in the property for a week's time. When they moved in, they were informed that there was some paint touch-ups that needed to be completed in the kitchen, just due to the removal of the popcorn ceiling. Ultimately, they were unhappy that this didn't happen in the expected timeline, but did express just how grateful they were for my husband's overall communication, especially because they had apparently had a bad experience with a landlord in the past, which should have been foreshadowing maybe. But once they moved in, they had an extremely nitpicky list of demands, in their words. They stated that if we did not meet their demands, that they would be moving out. Some of them were a little bit odd. They sent a message stating that they had clogged the toilet with their own human feces, and that we would need to take care of it. And that is their wording. And the wording itself kind of just gave me weird vibes. But regardless, their concerns were addressed. They were told that if they wanted to move out, that we would break their lease. But ultimately, they were upset that they weren't going to get their February rent back, in spite of the fact that they were living there in part of February. And they said that they would consult with legal counsel and get back to us as to whether or not they were going to remain in the property. They proceeded to use racial slurs, including the N-word, at my husband. So ultimately, he had a bad feeling about the tenants, and he stated that he was going to go out there and just do an inspection on Friday to make sure that everything was the way that it was supposed to be. So he went out on Friday, everything was in place, and fast forward to Monday, we get a call from the neighboring unit. We have a great relationship with all of our former neighbors. So they gave us a call, and they informed us that there was water damage in their home that was apparently coming from our unit. So then 2 minutes later, I get a call from my other neighbor. She's not in the neighboring unit, but she gave me a call, and she said that there's something going on at our house. There's water all in the street. She said she thought it was because it was raining, but she noticed that it was coming from all around our property. And so I asked her if our tenants were still there. She said that they left on Saturday morning. She said that a moving truck woke her up, and she said that they had a crew of 20 people, and they were basically hustling to get out of there quick. And so she knew something was going on. So We get in the car and we head to our old rental property, which is about an hour and a half away from where we live, and we get a call from the HOA. And they told us that they suspected that there was foul play. So as we're pulling up to the property, we see water just covering the parking lot. There's water on the outside of our house, water surrounding the property, coming out of the side paneling. The fire alarm is going off. We open the door and there is water everywhere. The entire first and second level is completely covered with water. It's seeping through everything. And basically the ceiling is caving in. So the fire department had to come to shut the alarm off, and they pointed out where Caitlin and Kathleen had actually unscrewed the toilet and damaged the pipe to where they could tell that it was intentionally done. We saw where both of the pipes on both toilets were destroyed, and the water was turned on, so basically it would run and flood the place. So they completely destroyed our home to the point where it is uninhabitable. And not only that, but the neighbor's home is now destroyed. And, me personally, I'm not understanding how anyone could do this to someone's home, especially when my husband was nothing but accommodating and professional with them. And it really honestly just takes it a step further when Caitlin, who works for Atrium as a PA on emergency, would think it was a good idea to create a safety hazard and a fire hazard in a unit attached to other homes where there are children and elderly people living literally next door. And then following the incident, when we called them regarding the flood, they stated that they were not going to talk about it and that they just wanted to return their keys back. So obviously, audacity is running at an all-time high on this Tuesday, and it's in moments like these when I'm reminded that while God is real, demons are too, because this is nothing but demonic behavior to intentionally vandalize someone's home to the point where we can no longer enter the property, let alone have somebody live there. All of the time and the money and the investment is, gone and wasted. This was truly an act of pure evil, and, these two people really need to be held accountable for their actions. And it's truly a shame that anyone could really do something like this. On our end, we have filed a police report. We have contacted their employers. We'll continue to keep you updated as we document the progression of all of this. We've, of course, contacted our lawyers. It's an unfortunate and an unnecessary situation. And while it's a huge hit, we're just trusting in God and remaining positive. And we just ask for your continued prayers during this time. But ultimately, we know that everything will work out for the better. So I hope that your Tuesday is happier than ours is. But that's it for season 1, episode 1. Catch y'all on episode 2.